This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everyone, especially to our lovely kids and their families from the USA, South Africa, the UK, India, the Netherlands, Canada, and Colombia. Welcome aboard for your very own live and interactive safari. How exciting is this? My name is Trishala with Owen on camera this afternoon. It's quite a warm afternoon, but we need to get going, and I'll tell you why. It's 31 degrees Celsius, or 88 degrees Fahrenheit. And we have to get going because we need to get to Chitwa. And Chitwa is a little bit far. And that's why we have a bit of a rolling start today. That's because we want to see if that leopard, Sibuyi, and her two cubs are still around. Isn't that exciting? So get your leopard questions ready, kiddies. And you can send them through to kidsquestions at WildEarth.tv. Hopefully they'll still be around. Now, they had a meal not long ago, and usually when a leopard has a meal to look forward to, they can stay in one spot for quite a while. Now, there wasn't much of that meal left, but I'm hoping because of the weather, because it's so hot, maybe they'll still be around and lying up in some bushes looking for some shade in this heat. Owen and I will also be looking for some shade. Hi Sam, you're 9 years old from the UK. How are you? I hope you are well. You'd like to know, what do leopards like to eat? Now, leopards especially like Impala. I'm sure somebody will show you an Impala today. And they also like duiker. And those are all types of antelope. You know, animals with horns and hooves? Those are type of antelopes. And they like eating them. They are what we call leopards are what we call obligate carnivores. They have to eat meat. They don't have all the organs and other necessary things that herbivores have in order to eat vegetation. So they have to eat meat, and that's why they go after medium-sized antelope. That's what they like. They also drink water, not very, very often. They don't need to all the time because they get their water from the meat, all the liquids in the meat. Anyway, speaking of antelope, guys, James is out as well, and he's got one to show you. So let's go over to say good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's Sunday afternoon, of course, as Trishala has no doubt explained to you, and if you didn't know that, well, you probably don't really care. My name is James Hendry. Hello. David is on camera. He's just doing some acrobatics at the back there. And, of course, as always, the first 45 minutes are dedicated to the kids. So please talk to us using the hashtag kidsquestions at wildearth.tv. That's kidsquestions at wildearth.tv. Now, before I go any further, I was most remiss in not wishing my friend Debbie a happy birthday this morning, and so I'm going to wish her a very happy birthday today, all the way from New Zealand. I hope that she's not asleep, and I hope that she is watching and enjoying the afternoon here in South Africa. Happy birthday, Debbie. Now, these nyala are having a tremendously peaceful time. They are enjoying a good Sunday afternoon meal. And I just love the way the colours of the lit grass and a bit of yellow on the leaves, darker green in the middle of the shade, sort of contrasts with their charcoal-coloured fur. And one can always appreciate the fact that they have a milk moustache. Now, you also might have noticed, if you're a particularly observant human being, these nyalas are not running away from us, that they are closer to us than many of the impala we view every day. And you might ask yourself the question, I wonder why it is that those nyalas to allow those human beings to be closer to them than the impalas are. And so I shall tell you, in case you are very worried about why this is the case. We're not entirely sure, but we do know that nyalas habituate to people very readily, and they often come into camp, especially when it's dry, and after a little while you can walk meters from them and they don't notice you. They'll watch you carefully, and I wouldn't try and touch one, because one little hook with those horns, and you could be in very deep trouble. But they are totally relaxed around in the camp, and so I think these chaps have probably been into camp a few times. They know we're not a threat, so they just get on with it when we come by. Another very interesting thing happened to me yesterday while we were talking about habituation, or rather while I'm delivering a monologue on habituation. We came past here in a closed vehicle, and there was a giraffe standing here. And normally the giraffe, a little bit like the impala, will move away from us to within, say, 30 or 40 meters. And this giraffe did not move. We parked 5 meters from it in a closed vehicle, and it didn't move at all. And I thought that was really quite telling, because I think it does say that they are seeing human being in the back of these cars. They're not perceiving us in the same way as they are when we're on foot, but they are definitely recognizing the difference between this, where we're obvious, and a closed vehicle where we're really not. So that was quite interesting. Yes? Yes. Ooh. And yeah, I don't know how many types of antelopes there are. I had a wonderful book that used to tell me things like that, but it's in Johannesburg, where there are no antelopes. And yeah, we get 9 here, maybe 10. I will list them for you quickly. We get the nyala, the bushbuck, the kudu, the steenbok, the duiker, the wildebeest, the impala, the waterbuck, possibly the sable, and this is where I always get stuck. I think that's it, actually. So those are the antelope that we get here, 9 antelope species. There are a lot more than that around, though. I'm going to say 40 species of antelope in Africa, maybe more. No, there are definitely more, because there are at least 20 duiker species on their own. Lots of gazelles, and they all live in different kinds of habitats. So let's say 60. We're going to hand you over 110 k's down towards the west, where Taylor McCurdy is waiting to say hello to you at Eco Training's Karongwe camp.
Hello everybody, and to all the families and children that have joined us this afternoon on the Sunset Safari. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Alex Shapiro, and we are on a private game reserve about 110 kilometers away from James, and it's called Karongwe Game Reserve. But what you saw in the murky waters, which we're going to have a closer look at now, are some terrapins. Perhaps you'd like to call them maybe water tortoises, because that's what they kind of look like. And especially if you're from maybe in America, I don't think you've got terrapins, you have turtles. So these are our water tortoises. Like I said, they're like a combination between a tortoise and something that's got web feet, but they like to swim around in these murky waters. And we have 2 different kinds of terrapins that swim around in all the dams in this area, and they are the marsh and the serrated hinge terrapins. It's a bit glary to see what kind they are today, but if the one has got a white mustache just underneath its nose, then it's probably a marsh terrapin. And if they're in the water like this, because you normally just see their heads poking out and then their shells, and then the other one's got a bit of speckling on its mustache, if you will, below its nose, and then that would be the serrated hinged. But if they're out sunning themselves on the banks, then it's very easy to tell the difference. But there'd be all sorts of crazy things in this water. There'll be lots of fish and lots of insects, and there's some birds just at the back. I don't know if you can see them. Alex, our friends who we have seen before, Mr. and Mrs. Blacksmith Lapwing, and they are feeding on all the insects that like to live around here in the water. Normally they wade in the water, so they walk in very sort of shallow areas. They can't swim. Well, I don't think they'd be able to swim very well, so they don't go in too deep, and then they pick the insects off the surface of the water. Now, oh, there we go. See, it's going all the way into the water. Look how gross that water is. I wouldn't want to swim there. I also wouldn't want to put my feet in the water, but the bird doesn't seem too bothered at all. What else we got? Oh, it's just flown to the other side. And you can hear them making that noise, like, bark, bark. No, that sounds like a chicken. That's not the noise they make. They actually get their name from the sound that they make. We'll see. Maybe they fly and chase something away, and then we'll hear them making their call. But some people say that it sounds like a blacksmith striking, I suppose, some iron. So it's a very high-pitched sound. Maybe we'll hear it. If not here, you can maybe hear it with James at Djuma. But this is lovely. Oh, there we go. Ran and got something. So they're quite quick. So they don't just feed on the insects in the water. They'll also run to the water's edge when the insects are on their way to have a little drink to catch them too. But it's a very hot day here. So maybe I would have to put up with the murky water. All that algae that's growing in there. The birds don't seem to mind, and I don't think the terrapins care too much either. Andreas, now you are only 7 years old and you've caught on to my water tortoises. I'm only joking. I promise they're not really called water tortoises. I just like to describe them like that. So they're actually called terrapins, and they feed on a lot of insects, but I would say they're omnivores. They eat a bit of everything. So you get tortoises that walk around on land and typically live on land, but of course there's always an exception to the rule. The leopard tortoise can swim, but don't get confused. They've got claws and they can pull their head all the way into their shell, whereas a terrapin, aka the water tortoise, but you're not really allowed to call it that. You can call it that on the show, and that's all, but don't you think it's a good description of what we're seeing? And they can pull their necks in sideways, so they can't pull their heads all the way back in the shell, and they've got some webbing between their toes. And then you get turtles. We're not going to see any turtles here. The turtles live in the ocean. But in America, I know, for an example, they get snapping turtles, and they are basically the equivalent of our terrapins. So sometimes you get similar species all over the world, but people call them different things. I like water tortoises. I think it's quite funny. If I have children one day, I will teach them that these are water tortoises. And then when they're older, they can learn that they're not. But you can see they're just poking their heads out the water. It's quite funny, especially if you don't know what they are. And then they just disappear. And they'll also be looking for all sorts of goodies swimming around in there to eat. Now, Ashley, sorry, I didn't hear your question earlier. You're all the way from Germany. Now, you're wondering about the size of these terrapins. Oh, well, I don't know the weight, because you shouldn't really pick up any tortoises, terrapins, and I wouldn't want to pick up a turtle either for no reason. So, I don't know. Alex, how heavy would you say a terrapin is? Probably less than a kilogram, maybe about a kilogram or so. Not very. Alex says specifically 830 grams. Alex is who's controlling the camera. He's very specific. He's basically a scientist. He guesses that, really how heavy they are, but I'll tell you why you shouldn't touch them, especially a terrapin. Oh my goodness, Ashley, they're so stinky. They're on the sides of their bodies. They have these little stink glands, and it's basically like a defense mechanism. So if they get scared or they're trying to chase away something that's maybe eating them or bothering them, they release this terrible secretion, and it takes days and days to get off of your hands. It's really quite horrible. But the reason why we shouldn't pick up tortoises and terrapins is because they store a lot of liquid in a special compartment inside their bodies. You don't need to worry about the name just yet, because it's just going to complicate you. But if you wanted to know, it's called a bursa sac, but don't worry about that. And when they get scared or frightened, they will release a lot of that water, especially for tortoises. With terrapins, they've got those stink glands. And if you do that to a tortoise, oh my goodness, what happens if there's not a lot of rain? And then they're going to be dehydrated and they could die. So don't pick up tortoises unless they're crossing the road and you absolutely have to, or maybe if they've tipped over on their shell. This bird is having a bath. I think we're going to leave it in peace now. Nobody likes it when you watch them while you're just having a bath or a little swim. So I don't know where I'm sending you to, but you're going to go and have a chat with one of the other presenters.
I'm also not quite sure, but about slightly smaller than a leopard tortoise, I think.
So a warm welcome to all the kids that are tuning into the show. So you can see...
Sorry guys, but I have some good news. We have found the tree that Sabui and her 2 cubs, the leopard, was in. And we found the remains of what they've been eating down there. Not pretty, but food for some. But unfortunately, no Sabui or her 2 cubs. But I'm sure they are still around somewhere. So we're going to leave this site and search around a little bit. There's some water nearby. I did say to you that animals like carnivores, especially leopards, they get a lot of their water from the things that they eat. The fluids in the flesh of the animals that they eat, so they don't have to drink very often, but that doesn't mean they won't drink. If there's water available, they definitely will. And there's a big dam very, very close by. So I think that we should search around here on Chitwa, see if we can find some tracks. Remember, we've got to look for some clues that the bush will give us as to where animals have gone. So we need to follow a clue or 2. But for now, we have no clues except let's check out the water and check out some shady spots. Now that's all they have that was left. And obviously they're full now. So let's go find them. Alright, I'm going to send you over to James in the meantime while I get out of this block.
Look, we have got some elephants here, which is wonderful. Before I start talking about the elephants, let me just quickly tell you that I've been reliably informed, and I should have remembered this because I voiced a clip for it once. There are 72 antelope species in Africa, so that's very nice. And then my great friend Garot, all the way from Cape Town, reminded me that in fact there's another antelope found here in the Sabi Sand, although I've never seen one in this reserve, and that is the klipspringer, or stone jumper. So 10 species potentially here. Oh, hello big mama. Here comes a large elephant to say hello to us. What a lovely way to spend a Sunday, hey? Let's listen to them for a little while. Lovely sound. You're hearing the grass being torn, shaken free of dust, and mainly you're hearing the ears, like 2 great sails. That's amazing. I wonder if you recorded that sound and played it to somebody, how many people would be able to guess that it was elephants' ears flapping. Hello, James in Johannesburg. What a great name you have. James, elephants can weigh up to 6 tons. That's 6,000 kilograms. And you're aged 8, so I'm going to guess you probably weigh around about 15 kilograms, give or take. So if we multiply you by 400, we should get roughly to the same mass as an elephant. So 400 Jameses would be the mass of a big elephant bull. This cow in front of us probably weighs in the region of 4 tons, so about 100 Jameses. No, sorry, my maths has gone kawula. Let's call it 45, 3, 6, 7, we'll call it 70 Jameses. That's not right either. Oh dear. Why was it so easy to do the other one? 600 in a bull, and so, yes, about 400 in a cow. James, hang on a second, my maths is letting me down badly here. Stand by. 400 of you in a bull, right? So in a cow, it'll be about 250 of you. There we go. Phew. My mathematics was letting me down badly there. And then this youngster moving into frame now probably weighs in the region of, I don't know, let's call it maybe 450 kilos, James. So about 40 of you. 30 of you, sorry. Gosh, really. I think my brain's been cooked. 30 of you, if you weigh 15 kilos. If you weigh something like 17.5 kilos, please don't tell me, because I really will be, my brain will explode. Oh, right, we're going to go across to Trish now. We'll stay with our elephants. Let's see what she's got for us.
We have come down to the water where we are hoping maybe we could pick up on some clues as to where our leopard family has gone to. But we found a beautiful couple, none other than the African fish eagle. They have the most stunning call, at least I think, and the both of them are together, which is quite nice. Now, fish eagles, oh, we have 2 hippos also joining the scene. It's a couple's day out here at Chitwa. We have a couple of fish eagles, a couple of blacksmith lapwings behind them, and a couple of hippos going past. I guess it's really hot. Everyone wants to be out and about. Now, fish eagles are what we call monogamous, so they keep their partner. Oh, do we have an African darter at the back there too? On the right-hand side of the screen. Oh, very cool. Hi, Johannes. You'd like to know what do hippos eat? You're 9 years old and you're from Germany. Hippos like to eat grass. They're grazers. So they come out of the water in the evening and then they walk around eating lots of grass for a few hours, and then they head back into the water. The fish eagles here, as you could probably guess, like to eat fish. But they'll also prey on other little birds, little reptiles, other small animals that they'll find along the water's edge. Our males and females look quite similar. Looks like the pair of these fish eagle are now looking at what the hippo is doing. Just on the right, on that little island. That's where they look. They're against that little island. Where did you guys go? They were just near that data. So like I was saying, there we go. The males and the females of the fish eagles, they look very similar, but the females are a little larger than the males, and they have a broader white patch on their breasts. So when we see them again, we can try to figure out which one is male, which one's female. Hello Sarah, you're 7 years old and you're from Germany. You'd like to know how long can hippos stay underwater? That is an awesome question, also because it lets me know that you know that hippos have to come up to breathe air, but they can stay underwater for between 3 to 5 minutes. That's a long time. How long can you stay underwater, Sarah? I definitely know I can't for that long. Very impressive. Hippos are. They also give birth in the water. Oh. Tucked your head in, but we can still see your body, Hippo. Hi, Julian. You're 10 years old and you're from the USA. You'd like to know, do hippos swim or do they bounce? Hippos bounce. They walk across the bottom of the rivers, lakes, or dams, wherever they happen to be, and then kind of like how a porpoise or a dolphin would move through the water, going down and then up and then down and then up. That's what they do. They kick off the bottom of the water body, just like you would kick off the side of a swimming pool. When you get to one end and you turn and then you kick off the side and you keep on swimming, they do a similar thing, kicking off the bottom. It's also important to just sit here and listen, because I haven't forgotten about our leopards that we want to find. And to sit here and listen for some clues. Now, can we tell which is the male and which is the female? Remember, the female has a broader breast patch. They're not being very obliging, though. Some of you are wondering what the buildings in the background are. That's the lodge of Chitwa. Chitwa is the name of the lodge or the property that we're on, and that's the lodge there. Of course, there's nobody in it at the moment. It's really nice to see our fish eagles on the ground. We usually see them up in the tree, but they're catching a bit of shade. Oh, Sarah, you say you can stay underwater for 1 minute. That is awesome. I'm sure you'll only get better. Maybe you'll be as good as a hippo. Awesome. Very nice to see the couples out and about at Chitwa Dam. Oh, there's a croc in the back as well. Very cool. All right, let me send you over to James with some elephants. And when you get back, we can chat about the croc.
Our elephants have come a little bit closer now. Now, before I carry on, my friend Gareth got hold of me again all the way from Cape Town, and his daughter is 8 years old and weighs just over 30 kilograms, and she's pretty average sized. And so poor old James, who I said was 15 kilograms, is either very malnourished or much bigger than I think he is. So James, let's say you're 30 kilograms, and we'll go back to my appalling mathematics. There are 200 of you in a big bull elephant and 150 of you in a big cow. Okay, and that's the final word we'll say on it. Phew. Do you know, elephants' teeth start growing, I think, pretty much immediately. Their tusks only erupt, so the tusks are the two big incisor teeth there, the two front teeth. They only erupt at about a year in cows and 18 months in bulls, as far as I'm aware. I could have that mixed up, it might be the other way around. But their molar teeth, I think, you know, I'd be lying to you if I tried to give you an answer there. I'm going to say they probably start around about 6 months. Let's say that. I don't know, though, I'm afraid. Because they don't eat much. Well, maybe it's a bit earlier than that. They try and eat vegetation before then. She's got nice and close to us now. Very relaxed. Hello, Sam, in the United Kingdom, where I hope things are warming up. Elephants eat for about 16 hours a day. Sometimes more, sometimes up to 18 hours. She's just giving us a bit of a smell. She's got an itchy ear. And she's now decided she wants to eat some of the bush that is right next to us. As we parked here, I thought to myself, I wonder if the elephants are going to want to eat from this patch of shade. And obviously they do. But this cow doesn't mind at all that we happen to be here, I hope. Oh, this is so special. Look at this. The smell is like a really strong-smelling horse. I hope she doesn't mind my saying that. Millie, elephants have got such big ears because it helps them to cool their brains. So what she's doing now is flapping her ears to cool the blood in them. And by doing that, when the blood flows to the brain, it keeps her nice and cool. You can see lots of veins in the ears there. And so the blood flows through the ears, all of it in about 20 minutes. And then it travels into the brain and keeps the brain nice and cool. I sit here closer to an elephant than I've ever been before, we're going to go across to Nikki, who apparently has managed to find a signal.
Welcome back to andBeyond and Ngala, and hopefully we got some signal now at the moment. Now, our plans for this afternoon, I heard you already saw some elephants with James, so we'll try and see if there's any big herds of buffalo, or maybe even like also if there's a chance of seeing some elephant herds in the area. It is pretty warm, so looking out for lions and leopard, like especially with the lions, they would be laying down. However, I think as soon as it starts cooling down, we'll start heading into an area and see if we can find some lion as well as leopard this afternoon. But I think the pride of lions are going to be our main search. And I also know that Rowan and Sean are going to be heading in the area where they last had the tracks of those lions to try and see if they can find them. It's still warm, like with lions, whenever it's this warm, you'll find them going into the shade. And that's where they'll rest up for the majority of the day. Now, earlier on, Marcel said he saw some vultures up in the tree. So we're going to go and have a look and see if there's anything at those vultures or where those vultures are. So hopefully it's not... Hopefully it's not a stump, like we had a joke the other day, but I'm sure it would not be. Anyway, oh, it's actually a southern ground hornbill. Just want to quickly show you, and then we'll head across to James with some elephants. But have a look at that. So often when it's really warm, you don't find them up in the trees. You actually find them on the ground. Now, I wonder if something might have disturbed it, and then it moved up. And then it probably like flew up into the trees. Oh, there we go. Seems to me, I think there might be some more around the corner. Oh, can you still see some? So I just want to quickly go back a bit. Have they moved down? So I think they might have gone. There's an open clearing in front of us. So I think these ground hornbills, southern ground hornbills, might have gone and landed in the area in front of us. So we're going to get there. Also, while we're on our way there, I just wanted to give a shout out to Florence from the UK, age 10. It's her birthday today. And I just want to say happy birthday. And hopefully look at this with the southern ground hornbills and the moon in the back. That is such a beautiful picture. I'll try to have a look and see if there's a youngster amongst them. And it looks to me all of them have that red color near the face and under the throat. So the youngsters often don't have that. They have a bit of black. But you can see with their mouth open, it might be very hot. And that's just one of the ways that they cool themselves down. Just aged 11 from the UK. You asked a very good question. When do the hornbills eat? So hornbills will actually eat early parts of the morning and late in the afternoon. But sometimes in the heat of the day even, you'll find them moving under the trees. And if they do find anything like a snake, maybe a beetle, grasshopper, they'll go grab it and then eat that. But whenever they possibly can, but you normally find them moving early in the morning and late in the afternoon. And then later on, as it starts getting dark, they'll start flying towards their nests. But it is a special bird to see. You'll find in South Africa or Southern Africa, there's very few places where you can see a lot of ground hornbills. I know if you go central part of South Africa, even more south, it's really hard to see them. And you don't get them in most of those areas. And even up in the eastern coast of South Africa, there's only a few records, but for us, we're very privileged to be able to see them and also see them quite often. Kayla, age 11 from the UK, you asked a very good question. How do animals know when to migrate? So I would say it all starts off, I think, during change of seasons. So the animals can almost notice, especially, let's use an example. Let's say if we had to look at wildebeest and zebra, for example. You often find that when the food in one area starts to become scarcer, and then as soon as there's a bit of rain, it almost like initiates. And normally it starts by a couple of individuals that will just start moving. And as they move, they start heading down to this area where they know there'll be greener pastures or maybe a bit more water. And you even find it with elephants. Oh, there they're off. You even find it with elephants in some of the areas where it's really dry. You might find that the elephants, because of their experience, like the matriarch will then know, all right, these are the areas where there's water, and these are the areas that normally dry up during a certain time. So then what they will do from there is the matriarch will then say, okay, let's need to move, and they'll start moving towards that area. And it might take them weeks before they can eventually get there, but they'll get to an area where there's a lot more water, and whenever there's a lot more water, often there's a lot more food for them to eat. So I would say it's a very good question. It's hard to explain on exactly, because each individual animal will have a different means of how they will initiate, like for them to migrate. With some of the birds, they'll start migrating as soon as they are getting into the season when they need to breed. So they'll start, other times could be quite a few will play part when an animal start to migrate. Trying to see where.
Right, sorry about that. Seems to be a few technical glitches with Karongwe. We've just moved around a big termite mound with a nice big ebony tree on it, and the elephants, or more of them, are wandering down in the riverbed that runs next to Vuyatela camp. So when these lockdown restrictions ever end, or if they ever end, of course they're going to end, just don't know when, you can book yourself in here if you like. Come and sit on your deck and watch these beautiful elephants wander past. Something's happened here. One of the adults has given word that they should move along. I think the word came from behind, actually. Johannes, they can't stand on 2 feet, but they can lift themselves up onto 2 feet. So if they want to reach something very high up in a tree, you'll sometimes see them jumping up onto 2 feet and pulling something out. They've got plenty of space to walk past us, so we're not in their way at all. There we go. Alright, everybody else who's now itching to ask a question, make a comment, send through an insult or a joke, now's your chance. Send them through on the hashtag WildEarth, otherwise the YouTube chat stream or the Twitch chat stream. I'd love to hear from you kids. You can keep talking to us as well, don't worry. But it's now open to everybody. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous afternoon here. That's the same cow we were with earlier, who was eating the Sisyphus mucronata bush just next to us. That's the buffalo thorn. James, once elephant bulls get to around about your age, they start to become a little bit irritating to the herd. And they'll start to spend less and less time in the middle of the herd and more time away. And then by the time they're 18 to 20, they're pretty much independent. So while you will probably remain with your family a little bit after the time you're 18, maybe until you're about 45 or so, elephant bulls don't have that luxury. They have to leave much earlier than that. Dove calling above us. I often find with these elephant sightings, you've got to nice and try and park nicely so that you don't have to move. And then they really become very special as the elephants just kind of walk around you. Wildlife Pete, which animal has the highest bone density? Goodness gracious me. I don't know. Got no idea. I'm quite interested in that question now, though. I mean, this sounds a bit silly, but hippos sink. Elephants don't sink. So maybe elephants have got, at least hippos have got quite a high bone density. What else? Definitely not any of the birds, obviously, and so therefore I'm assuming none of the bats, because they need to fly, and so they need to shed as much weight as possible. I would imagine there must be a fine balance if you're a big animal like an elephant between density and mass. Now, maybe in order to support the huge mass of an elephant, they've got very dense bones. I wonder if perhaps the metacarpal bones on the end of a giraffe's leg aren't perhaps extremely dense. They certainly feel very dense when you pick them up. It's a really nice question, I don't know. That's very sweet. Two little babies now walking past, fighting over a piece of creeper. Our original friend. Darcy Ann reckons a rhino femur is quite dense. I'm pretty sure it's dense. I don't know if it's the densest bone, but could be. Could be one of the densest bones. I don't see why not. Excuse me squinting at you. It's just the sun in my eyes. It's not because I'm pulling a face. Then the rest of the herd is kind of grazing past the left-hand side of us there. Some of them higher up. So I don't think we should move just yet. I think we should stay right here. Lovely sound of the dove. I always remember that from my childhood as a a relaxing Sunday sound. I'm not really sure why. Sorry, Natalie, you broke up there. Can you try again? She's speaking. We're going to go across to Kochava now. She's got a pig for you, and we'll see what happens with these elephants.
I'm so glad that we have some good elephants on drive. I've missed them. We have a warthog here with his family who has been rolling about in the water as well. It's really hot today. It said 31 degrees Celsius, but I don't believe it. It feels like it's hotter. There's a few little piglets in this group as well. Very cool. So the antelope are all around at the moment in the area where I expect Sabi to have been. And that makes me wonder if she has not moved significantly from the spot. Oh, now there is the wet one. Oh, that looks so good. It really does. And we have to get a bit of a snack after a swim. I myself am partial to that as well. There's some Impala all around as well. Kamaya, you'd like to know if the female animals menstruate. They do not. We are one of... Please be quiet. I'm talking about menstruation. It's very important. Thank you. This Impala ram doesn't like my conversation. So, many animals do not menstruate. In fact, there's a few primates, ourselves. There are 1 or 2 rodents. And a few bats that do menstruate. I may be missing a couple of them, but they are few and far between. And that is because most animals, just bear with me because it's a little bit complicated, but most animals create the lovely lining that the egg needs. Oh, we've got some mating going on here. Oh. We'll get back to this because it's a very interesting topic. Well, he tried. Didn't make it, though. You can try again. I'm sure he will. Once they mate with one female, they won't mate with her again. So menstruation is a really incredible thing. Most animals will actually only create the lining in the uterus that the egg needs in order to embed itself. It'll only create that once the egg has been fertilized. We create that every month. There we go. Nope, not only trying again. So we create that lining every month, which is why we shed the lining every month. It may seem like a waste of investment. So what we experience is called spontaneous decidualization. Decidualization is the creation of the lining, the uterine lining, in preparation for the egg. So we do it every month. Most animals will only do it once there's a fertilized egg. Why on earth would this be beneficial to us? Well, for one, we have a very invasive placenta once we do actually have a fertilized egg and placenta starts to grow. We have very invasive placenta. So one of the theories is that because we start, as in the individual, the host starts the whole process of getting the eggs, getting everything ready, it's not just the womb, not just the baby or the egg that starts the whole process. It actually may give the parent a little bit more control hormonally. Also, that lining has some sort of ability that allows it to detect eggs that are particularly metabolically active. And the only reason an egg would be that way. This ram really doesn't like my menstruation talk here. The only reason an egg would be yes, Natalie says he's mansplaining. The only reason that there would be a very highly metabolically active egg is if it's trying to solve something, trying to fix something, such as aneuploidy or other lethal issues with an egg, and it can sometimes have a mechanism, or some research has shown that there's a mechanism that allows for an abortion, or for the animal to abort that egg if it senses that something is wrong with it. So that lining has some benefits, even though it's shed every month. Interesting stuff. Thank you. I think these females are happy that I got to speak about it. Males, not so much. Yes, it is indeed a background peanut gallery. It's probably saying, no, I don't need to know this. I don't need to know this. Why are you telling me this? So basically the bottom line with that is that every other animal, or most other animals, only create the lining that we shed once there is an egg, so there's no need to shed. And anything that's created before that gets reabsorbed. Dav, you'd like to know why they're alarm calling? They are not alarm calling. It's not them, it's just the male who's alarm calling. And it's the same sounds that he's making, but it's not alarming. He's just advertising his territory. So at this time of the year is when we experience the rut, the Impala rut, and that's when Impalas, which are normally not territorial, will suddenly become territorial as the day lengths get shorter, and it triggers a release of testosterone. It triggers a whole lot of sex hormones to get going, and then they become territorial. And in order to advertise their territory, they make these sounds. And they will chase out other males in the herd, and they'll try to mate with the females, and you'll find them on their own a little more often. Before, in times when they're not territorial, soon, do other animals sense or smell human menstruation? I'm sure they do. It doesn't make sense that they wouldn't, especially since we can smell it. And it certainly wouldn't make sense that other animals cannot. But what does it smell like to them? Does it smell like blood? Does it smell like tissues? Or are they just smelling the hormones in them? I would have no idea. But I'm sure that it can be smelled. And no reason it can't if we can. Okay, they're carrying on. Anyway, we'll talk more about the rut. I got cut off there with the other question, but we'll chat more about the rut when we get back. I'm going to keep on looking for Zubuyi, and I'll send you over to James with those lovely elephants again.
We've not left our elephants, largely because we can't. There isn't really an exit point away from them, but we don't want to go away from them. Fascinating discussion you're having with Trishala there. mainly because it would seem, and I don't know if Trishala mentioned this to you, but menstruation has evolved more than 4 times in mammals, and that to me is fascinating because I've always thought that it would seem to be a bit of a waste nutritionally, and that almost that it wouldn't be beneficial enough for it to have evolved more than once, and maybe it was a bit of an evolutionary mistake. But it seems to have evolved more than 4 times. So fascinating discussion that. Our elephants are not a mammal that menstruates in the strictest form. They have an estrous cycle, and then the endometrium is reabsorbed. And that always seemed like the most practical thing for me. And I think you'll find that the flapping of the ears is so much louder than it's been before because it's quite a hot afternoon. It's a good sort of 32 degrees, I think it must have been. Sharita, the matriarchs are chosen through a very complicated set of voting rules. They run primaries, normally in about sort of September every 4 years, and then the elections are held around April the following year, just at the end of winter, at least the end of summer. And that matriarchal voting cycle is unlike the presidential cycle of many countries. It's a 10-year cycle, and so they have a voting process every 10 years for the new matriarch. And it's normally done on partisan lines, but generally peacefully, and it's all fairly amicable, and in the end no one disputes the result. That's obviously complete garbage. The matriarch is simply, normally, the oldest female in the group. And unlike with presidential or with human leadership races, political races, there's actually no advantage to being the matriarch. You know, she doesn't get status or any kind of benefit. I think that's a tree branch scraping against another tree branch. That squeaking noise you can hear. And so the matriarchal position is much like, I suppose, I'm trying to think of an example of one. I guess it's a little bit like the abbot of an abbey. Does that make sense? Where his job is an administrative one. There's no status involved in it. There's a lot of responsibility involved, but very little status and benefit to it. So the matriarch's job is to help guide the elephants, to provide security, to teach the youngsters. All the cows will teach the youngsters, but the matriarch will decide on where they're going and that sort of thing. And she doesn't get anything for that. And of course, as we often discuss, the big difference is the matriarch in a hyena clan, where it's much more like a human situation, where once you've managed to get yourself to the top, and there's a lot of fighting, violence, political machination, once you get to the top, there is a lot of advantage. You eat more than everyone else. Your cubs have got a better chance of surviving. So, you know, it stands to reason that everyone would want to be the matriarch if they could be. Whereas in elephants, it's very different. Ooh, Ibrahim, this is really a question you want to go into now. I'm more than happy to go into it. Do animals have more or different sexual orientations like humans do? A lot of new research would suggest yes, to a certain extent. Permanent same-sex bonds don't seem to occur, but absolutely temporary same-sex bonds definitely occur in mammals. We've seen it in giraffes, definitely, buffalo. Now there's a lot of elephants, lions. it's possible that we're misinterpreting those interactions, so same-sex interactions, as for dominance displays and dominance interactions. But it would seem that even beyond the animals I've mentioned, there's just way too much evidence that absolutely, at least temporary same-sex relations or partnerships form or sexual partnerships form in various animal species. So yes. And I think, humans are largely, in the mammal world, humans are not unique, but we're unusual in having this pair-bonded society. And it's semi-pair bonded, really. We're a nominally monogamous species, but as everyone knows, adultery is a major part of human life. Not everybody engages in it, but we all know it's going on around us. And if you go to our nearest primate relatives, something like a gibbon, for example, they form totally monogamous bonds. And then you go to something like a chimpanzee, which is very different, and they have no monogamy whatsoever, especially the bonobos. And in bonobos, where there is absolutely no monogamy whatsoever, there's lots of same-sex sexual relations that go on between females in the troop, between males in the troop. And so, we kind of sit somewhere in between, I guess. It's difficult to say, because obviously our culture and our sociality and our social norms and our cultural norms mean that culturally we're much more complicated than a chimpanzee or a bonobo. And so it's more difficult it's a little bit more difficult to study us purely biologically. You can't study our biology in the absence of understanding our culture, and vice versa, mostly vice versa. Lovely topic, that. Really interesting. Tends to get a few people hot under the collar, though. So they're all grazing past us now towards the big ebony tree I mentioned before. We will try and I think probably stay with them a bit longer. We did have tracks of the male leopard Tingana, probably Tingana, around here this morning, and maybe he's lying up in one of these bushes having a nice snooze. And there's the moon. Thank you, David. The moon with some Ziziphus. David is now going to show you Ziziphus mucronata backed by the moon. And he's going to do a focus ball, is he? Oh, there it is. There is the focus ball. That is the buffalo thorn. It's quite pretty. Well spotted, David. And just on that, the last thing I'll say about it, because it is quite interesting, is that there's a school of thought that makes a lot of sense around the evolution of homosexuality, particularly in coalition or in mammal species where there are male coalitions. Because if you look at something like a lion pride, if one of the brothers, let's say a coalition of two takes over a lion pride, and they are brothers. If one of them is not interested in lionesses, it doesn't matter from the point of view of his genes, because by helping to defend the pride, even if he never mates with any of the lionesses and only his brother does, although only 50% or 25% of his genes have a chance of being passed on, plus minus, that's still better than nothing. So he's guaranteeing the passing on of his lineage kind of through his brother, if you know what I mean. And some researchers have linked that kind of idea with the evolution and retention of homosexuality in some species. Right, let's move from here. We don't have the best picture in the world. We're going to go around this termite mound and see if we can pick up another view of them. Right, my earpiece is gone, but I think we're going across to Ngala, is that right? Where Nicky is. I don't know where he is, I don't know what he's doing on Ngala, but it'll be beautiful.
So we just heard from one of the rangers that he found a leopard in the riverbed not too far away from where we are. So we don't know if there might be any signal, but what we're going to do is head straight in that area. We just want to see, make sure that that branch, okay, that branch was all right. But I think what we'll do is we'll head straight in that area. I'm not too sure which male leopard this might be. It might be one that we are familiar with. But it won't be too long. Probably take us at least another 15 or so minutes to head where that leopard might be. So for now, while we're going to go look for the leopard, let's head across to Trashala, and then we'll be back.
Well, I have just watched a male fiercely try to chase a female for mating purposes, of course. There he is. Now, Dove, we were talking about why they're making these sounds, and you thought perhaps they're alarming. And like I was explaining to you, he is trying to be territorial. So what will happen is he'll keep a small territory. When I mean small, I mean a couple 100 meters to a kilometer. Not much bigger. Of course, it depends on resources. And he's going to wait for females to come into his territory. And once they are in his territory, he will mate with them. And then we can expect some babies towards the end of the year. Now this happens every year. And usually it is the mature males that manage to mate. I don't just mean sexually mature, but have been around the block a couple times, usually around 7-8 years old. Yeah, he's bounding away in search of others in his territory. Impala, and it's gone. So these mature males are able to mate, and then they hold territories for a couple days. Not for very long, actually. Maybe a week, maybe more, maybe less. Because in this period, that's all they're focused on, is being sexually active, herding females into their territory, and being territorial, making that sound, advertising, etc. So things like grooming and eating become secondary, and they can often lose condition very quickly. Pest loads increase, their general body condition takes a bit of a downward turn. So when other males come along to fight for the territory, who are maybe only 6 years old, there we go, then they are able to take over, because they'll be in better condition than the males that are currently holding territories. So there's a sort of a constant turnover, a very consistent one at that too, of territories. It sort of doesn't look that way when we view them, but come November, December, when the lambs start to drop and you see just how many they are, you can know that it's a very, very successful strategy. I wonder if you saw that face. There seemed to be a change in expression just before he started to pursue her. A face I think many females of all species may be familiar with. It reminds me of a face in a club when you unfortunately make eye contact with somebody you really didn't mean to, and the face changes. There's another male not far away that's also advertising its territory. Luckily for this bad boy, his females are staying put. There's a young male in this herd as well who's got tiny little horns, and he'll try to push out that male and bully him as well as he continues on his testosterone-filled tirade. I don't know why, but that tail looks particularly long on this Impala. Nat, I'm going to get that question from you again, please. Hi, Joy in Hong Kong. You'd like to know if what happens when one of the rams gets ousted from its territory. When will it come back? What will it do? Generally, if his condition is still good, he will just find another territory or another area to be territorial around. Generally, animals don't really fight to the death unless they want to eat something. And you'll find, even when you watch them fight, when you watch them battle, it's very careful, very, very aggressive, and maybe aggressive is not the right word, very intense, but very careful. Because neither wants to hurt each other. They really just want a fair battle, and that's sort of nature's way of making sure that those individuals that are strongest and healthiest at the time of mating are the ones that get to pass on their genes. It's amazing how all of this actually works so well. It really is. Okay, I'm gonna keep on moving. Kochava also may be around, who knows. I'm gonna go look anyway. But while I do that, James is still with his beautiful elephants. He must be having the time of his life, so let's send you over to him.
Well, we are having the time of our lives, but unfortunately we're now in some very thick bush as we follow them, and therefore quite difficult to see any elephants as we speak. We may never get out of here. Right. Face to the wall of impenetrable bush. There's an elephant. Let's look at that one. They're just wandering gently through this riverine thicket, enjoying the food. Ah, 3 of them there. One little one. One littleish one. You might be able to hear the bulbul calling above us. Used to be called a bulbul. I'm afraid I'm a bit floored by that question, Gabby. Do they? Do they dance badly, elephants? I've always thought they danced quite well. They're not great at river dancing because they can't jump, but they're really good at the quick step, foxtrot, waltz. They're not bad at, although they do struggle with 3-time quite a lot. Tango's just a little bit too much for them. They find it a bit saucy. I mean, they can be quite saucy, I suppose, but they don't like to demonstrate it, so they don't generally do much with the tango. So it's normally fairly conservative ballroom dancing that they do. Quick steps, foxtrots, that sort of stuff. Does that answer your question? Dark-capped bulbul is what is making that little noise. There's one up there, David. And they're not that common around this place. I mean, they're a very common bird in South Africa, but I don't see them very often here. There he is. And his most interesting bit, I suppose, is his yellow vent. Dark-capped bulbul, staring at the sun going down. It's quite pretty, isn't he? A subtle attractiveness. An elephant about to remove David off his seat, but he can't turn right now because she's just walking behind him. Hi. Afternoon. Yes, good afternoon, isn't it? It's beautiful. I hope it's been a good day for you. It's certainly been a good day for us. I see your child is quite shy. I was quite a shy child. I'm okay now, though. I wouldn't worry about him. He'll probably grow out of it. Give him lots of encouragement. She's reached right down into the middle of that buffalo thorn bush and taken out, I suppose, what's a much fresher twig. It's got much greener leaves than some of the others, or some of the other bits of the tree. And then there's her second youngster going wandering past. He's not quite as shy as the other little one. Seem to have spent quite a lot of time this evening staring at elephant bottoms. I'm not sure if she's aware of this, but that isn't, in my opinion, her best angle. Still, When you're that size, you can show whatever angle you like. No, Chloe, we don't know if it's true if elephants never forget. They certainly seem to have pretty good memories, but I'm not sure if they never forget. I'm sure an old elephant forgets some things. I'm sure a young elephant forgets some things. It's quite a nice picture there, that little elephant walking through this tunnel. Flavio, that's a difficult question to answer. How strong is an elephant? Very strong. It's immensely powerful, but relative to its mass, I don't know how old you are, Flavio, so it's difficult to answer this question. I don't know how complicated an answer you want. Relative to its mass, it's not very strong. So an ant, for example, some ants can lift 1,000 times their own mass. A human being can probably lift roughly their own mass, let's say. An elephant wouldn't be able to lift its own mass with its trunk. So difficult to answer that question. In absolute terms, it's very strong. So it's much stronger than any human being, but in relative terms, so compared with its mass, it's not that strong. Does it make sense? If we're going to get through this little pathway, we'll go the same route as our car went. No, we're not going to go there. Too many bushes. I'm now driving through a cloud of acrid diesel. Hold on, David. Don't get removed by that Sisyphus bush. Righty, I was hoping there'd be a leopard on that termite mound towards the right, but there doesn't seem to be. So you go over to Trish and find out what's happening with her. You all right?
Very little is happening with me. I'm not too happy about it. Every boulder is a leopard lying down, every branch, every termite mound. Ha! I have leopard goggles on. Everything I see is leopard. Either way, I must say that I'm very glad that we got 3 drives with Sibui and her 2 cubs, and that you all got to enjoy that very much, which I think is just priceless. What you say there? You think that I should just tuck down here and see what's at the edge just because it's nice and cool there? Maybe an animal would like it? Okay, sure. I'll do that. I'm talking to you all, by the way. Not much happening here. Hi, Ashwin. You're 10 years old and you're from the USA. You'd like to know how do leopards meet to mate if they have territories? So territories, for one, are only defended against the same sex. So female leopards will not let other females into her territory, with sometimes exceptions of her mother, siblings, and daughters, sometimes sons, with a slight overlap, and not frequently, but still that can happen. But she will let males into her territory. In fact, she'd welcome males into her territory if she doesn't already have cubs by another male. But that's why she would like to mate with a few males to let them or lead them all to believe that those cubs are theirs, so they have a vested interest in their survival. But leopards are also known to stray quite far from their territories in order to find a mate. So basically, territories are a defended piece of area against the same sex that encompasses some sort of resource that other animals would want. So they definitely are able to meet in order to mate. Now they do also have an estrus cycle. Their estrus cycle is about 46 days or so, for which they're in heat for about a week of that time. Interestingly, humans, we always talk about syncing up of basically our menstrual cycles and the moon, etc. I saw an interesting fact, and I thought that if that is true, it should mean that our biological and phylogenetic sister groups or other related species like other primates should also be able to sync up, things like that. But it's actually a myth, at least from a scientific point of view. A, we don't sync up with each other, and B, we don't sync up with the moon. A chimp has a menstrual cycle of about 35 to 39 days. One would think that if they're closely related to us and that it was some sort of benefit to us in the past, perhaps not now, to sync up and to maybe sync up to the moon as well, then there would be some sort of remnant in our distant ancestors as well. But apparently not. Sorry, ladies. I got another question. Was it from David, Natalie? It was about the most rewarding part of my job. David, what is the most rewarding part of my job in the bush? So hard to say. So very, very hard to say. Forgive me while I get a little bit flowery. Being out in the bush doesn't require specific sightings. It doesn't require specific circumstances, exciting things to see. Just being out here and knowing that this is my job and this is my life and that I can do this for years, that's a reward. It's kind of like meditation. One doesn't need to sit down and meditate every day and focus on meditation. You need it to be something that happens every day, living it, being aware and being present in everyday things. That's what the bush allows me to do. That's what the bush is. I can come out here and not see anything but Impala on a drive, and it's still utterly rewarding. It really is. So yes, like I said, forgive me being flowery, but you will forgive me because I found you leopard tracks. In fact, I found you leopard and cub tracks. It looks like one cub. Maybe it's Kochava. One set of cub tracks. Okay, here's my adults tracks. It's my cub. Again, cub, adult. Dang. I can only see tracks where I have gaps in the vehicle tracks. But that's one cub, and that's Kochava and her cub. Also, her cub is still much young. Oh, not much younger, but younger than Sabi's cub. Sabi's cubs likely make a larger track than that. So what I was saying is I'm only seeing tracks in the gaps. See how there'd be, like here you have those two lines there? I'm only seeing the tracks in between there. Not on the vehicle tracks, so that doesn't bode too well. So look carefully. Nay. Unfortunately. Ooh. I have some tracks on top of a vehicle track, but in the opposite direction. Sorry, Natalie, I'm just pulling myself out again. I have this track. It's not the same individual as that one. This one. They're on top of the vehicle tracks. Leopard. Leopard in the tree. Yes. Okay. Where'd you go, my darling? She's just in here. She's just in here. Hello, baby girl. Who do we have here? She's just here. Okay, let's just stop here. See who we have. Shame. See, this is the only thing I don't like about tracking. She's just behind the bush. Is that, okay, she's moving a little bit. Let's go here. What I don't like about tracking so much when you get out the car, okay, there she is again, is that, I'm just going to get my binos out and see who we have. Come on, look at my face. Sabuhi, is it Sabuhi? Come on, look at me. Okay, Sabuhi is 2-2. I don't see other individuals. Shame. I must have scared her being upright and walking around like that. I think I saw two too. I haven't seen Sabui in so long. Gosh, it's so thick and stumpy here. Shame, I feel so bad that I scared her from the tree. Got her. Well, I ended up in the perfect spot. Okay. Okay, I'd rather do this now because I don't want to move all the time. I don't want to move all the time, but she's pretty relaxed now. Just so we can get a view of her face. She's... To me it looks a little like Kochava, but no, eyes. Apparently it's International Leopard Day. Joy has just sent us a message. Happy International Leopard Day, Leopardess. So Kochava's 3-3. You can usually tell by her eyes that it's Kochava. She has the most beautiful eyes. Come girl, I need to see your face. So our possibilities are, well, I mean, it's definitely not Tundi. We know Tundi's face. So our possibilities are Kochava, 3-3, of course, Sabui 2-2, and maybe Tlalamba 5-5. Like we said, they can move outside of their territories. So I'm going to say it's Kochava for now, but we're all going to need a good look at her face. Poor thing. And she says, "You want to look at my face?" No, no. Gorgeous. Ah, I'm so happy. So happy, everyone, that we managed to find a leopard. Everyone's still a little bit split. Yeah, she didn't give us a great opportunity to look at her face, but do you blame her? And she just saw a upright walking thing. I wonder how long she was watching me before I noticed her. That's kind of an eerily cool feeling. Lou, you reckon it's 3-3? Lou reckons it's 3-3. With 3-3, it's Kochava. It looks like she shook her head there. If that is so, she is a smaller cat. Okay, so Louise has gone back and she has had a look. She says that the spot pattern is 3-3, in which case it must be our beautiful Kochava. And that means as well so there should be a cub around somewhere. I had a feeling, because I've found that when leopards come out and they have a kill in a specific area that they possibly share close, They share a territorial boundary that's quite close, like Kochava and Sabui do. I find out that there's more often than not the other individual who doesn't have this kill close to the boundary will come out just to scope things out once the other animal has gone away, almost as if to say, I'm reaffirming my boundary here. I'm going to come back to these parts of my home and just make sure that everyone knows where I'm at. Okay, I think the jury is out. We are settling for Kochava. If only I could not see the back of her head as much, that would be wonderful. But you guys say, from the screenshots you've seen, from the pictures you've seen, it is Kochava. So where is your cubby? Gorgeous. Now I know that we don't have the best shot right now, but her cub has to be around, and I really do want it to come out and say hi to us. So I'm just going to sit here for a little bit. At least we can see her beautiful rosettes, just so the cub gets used to it. The last time, used to us. Oh, go find your cubby. Murphy's mom, you'd like to know if any leopards have the same spot pattern? Yes, they can. They can have the same spot pattern. But remember, the spot pattern is only the spots above the whiskers. Right? So they can have the same spot pattern. There's actually a few. So Tandi is a 3-3. Kochava is also a 3-3. Kalamba is a 5-5. Tingana is also a 5-5. Many animals. In fact, for me, most leopards that I've known of are 3-3. Big boy Anderson used to be, when he was alive, was a 3-3. Kukumuri is a 3-3. Hosanna was a 3-3. But that's not the only thing you look for. You look for the size of the leopard, the general size of the leopard, the area that you're in, the territory, and then eventually you get to know faces. For me, Kochava's face, apart from knowing that she's 3-3, which is the first thing that you should do, pull your binoculars out and check spot pattern. Obviously I could tell it was female straight away, but you want to make sure it's a 3-3, or you want to make sure you check that it's a 3-3 or whatever the spot pattern is first. And then the second thing I look for with Kochava is her eyes. She seems to have really beautiful shaped eyes, and she actually reminds me a lot of Tandi, not in the shape of the eyes but the shape of the face. She, of course, being Tandi's daughter, is not surprising. Hi Warwick, you'd like to know what sound does a leopard make? They can make a variety of sounds. The most obvious territorial sound is the hello cutie, is the sawing. Yep, there's 3-3. The sawing is basically the sound of, if you take a saw and you take it to some wood and you go, I don't want to do it now because I don't want to, it's not like I have the best sawing ability in the world, but I'd hate for her to think that I'm trying to saw at her. If you imagine pulling saw through a wood, but very, very guttural, very heavy and raw-like, but in that kind of rhythm. Then you also get grunts, chuffs, purring-like sounds, but they're not actually purring. Okay, I'm not gonna go to her straight away. I'm gonna watch her. She's moving behind. She's going to meet with... Okay, she's now moving in the opposite direction. Now I have to move. Okay. I wonder where her little one is. I can see her. I can see her. There we go. Gorgeous thing. Hello. Now we get a good look at your face. There's those eyes I was telling you about. You should be able to see it now. Natalie, who was that question from? It was a question on the age. Ah, Susie, you are asking how old Kochava is at the moment. Well, she's about 6.5. She was born in 2014, August, September, they say. Her mother is Thandi. Her father is possibly Mvula. Obviously, it's difficult to tell who the father is, generally speaking. But, of course, you can do genetic tests, etc., to try and determine that. Now, I wonder if her cub is still in that tree that she was in when I found her. But when she feels safe and comfortable, she'll call for her. So I'm just going to keep it down a little bit. Zephyr, you say she's inherited Thandi's grump look? Oh, Zephyr. Luckily I'm being very quiet when I said that one. She definitely has the Thandi look. But there's something very... I don't know what's a nice way to say this. Something very... you know when people say someone's got a resting you-know-what face? She has a similar sort of look, a very arrested, very I'm in charge and get used to it kind of face. Oh, I've been wanting to see her for such a long time. Hi Cammy, you'd like to know if female leopards will kill other leopard cubs? That's an interesting question. Unless they are caught in the middle of some sort of territorial dispute, it is very, very unlikely. In fact, leopards killing and injuring each other badly is quite rare, let alone killing each other. It's quite rare. Most of the time animals just want to defend their area. They're not interested in pride, etc. You know, I started the fight with you, or you started it with me, so I'm going to get you, or whatever. That's generally not the case. In fact, that's not the case at all. And the only reason, perhaps what led on to this question, the only reason that males will do that to the cubs of females, well, females only have cubs, but will do that to cubs, is that in an attempt to bring their mother back into estrus. Remember when a mother has just had a baby or a cub and is still lactating, still feeding the cub, still in the process of weaning, and has not raised the cub to independence yet, her estrus cycle is a little bit messed up, especially when she's lactating. She's basically not having an estrus cycle, definitely not a consistent one. Hello, beautiful teeth. And so males will kill the young of females, especially if they know that the young is not theirs, in order to bring the female back into estrus and then be able to mate with her and sire her own cubs, his own cubs. I just want her to feel as comfortable as possible, so that little thing comes out to visit. Sarah, you'd like to know if I can differentiate the individual leopards by their tracks? No, only male and female. Oh, there's some little things, but it's very difficult to see in a track. If you took a cast of their track, of their foot, then you would be able to. But from a track in sand, not really. Tingana has one claw that doesn't go back into its sheath. Hukumuri has a track that's slightly wider than Tingana's. It's more square-like. You could draw a square around it as opposed to a rectangle. And of the females, Shidulu has quite a large track. But other than that, and those are such subtleties, and I would not be able to report factually seeing those things. It just gives me a hint. It's very, very difficult to do that. I mean, there's some things that are obvious. Maybe a leopard's missing a toe or something, and then you'd be able to tell. I'm going to wait here very silently, and I'm going to send you over to James for an update.
I have had a long walk through the bushes here because we saw some walchas which were sitting on top of a tree. I shall now show you those very walchas that alerted my attention, and it's the same area where Louise this morning said that last night she'd heard something dying in here, and it went like this. Ah! Anyway, the vultures would certainly be attracted by such a death, but I've now done 2 long walks through this area and I can find nothing. Bupkis. I was worried that the word bupkis the other day was perhaps offensive to some people. One never knows these days, and it isn't, apparently. It's a Yiddish word, meaning nothing, but in a light-hearted way. A viewer sent me that. I forgot your name. I'm very sorry about that, but thank you very much for the information. So 2 white-backed vultures, And then Trishula, I think this was yesterday morning, had a whole, it was yesterday morning, had a whole lot of other vultures in this area. But I can't find anything here. It is very thick, so it would not be hard for something to hide something else, should that something wish to hide whatever thing it had. Excuse me. I must say they look very peaceful today. So what we'll do is just to continue sort of looping around this area. We did have nice leopard tracks here this morning, and maybe as the sun starts its inexorable march towards the west, towards the end of another week, perhaps we'll be lucky with a leopard on the road. Well done, Trishula, for finding Kochava. That is magnificent news. Especially as she went there expecting Sibui and 2 cubs. Alrighty, let's carry on. The other thing is that if there's a predator, like a leopard, in here, supping on something, the chances are that the leopard will need water. But there's so many puddles and things that he or she may not need to come down towards the waterhole here. The other thing we could do is go and check out what is going on at the hyena den, because there were 8 hyenas there this morning, so maybe we should do that. That's what we'll do. We'll pop around here, one last search, and then head down towards the den and see what we can find over there. My route is decided, my plan of action now being actioned. Unless I bump into a leopard around here. So this morning after drive, I had a walk through that area and down past through here. I didn't come up with anything, but like I say, it is very thick. Goody, Nicky has managed to find some signal. I hope that with that signal, he's got some interesting piece of biology that he can enlighten you with.
So welcome back to andBeyond Ngala. Unfortunately, the signal this afternoon wasn't the best, so we had to move out of quite a few areas. However, we're on our way to go and have a look at some lions, but have a look at how beautiful this is, having this herd of Impala. And you'll see just behind them on the road, there's a few oxpeckers that are dust bathing. See this one suckling? Just behind you'll also see quite a few of the oxpeckers in the sand. But how's that color? Now it's a pretty big herd, and I've only noticed one big male with this herd. I'm just trying to see where he is now, because earlier on, like, he started snorting and he pushed them all closer together. So now, age 9 from Durban, you asked a very good question. What is the best time to look out for the big 5? So I would say if you look out for lions and leopard, you're probably going to be looking out in the early and later part of the afternoon when it starts cooling down, so around about this time. When you look out for buffalo, elephants, and rhino, you want to be looking out when it starts warming up, because that's when they start heading down to the water, especially elephants and buffalo, to go and drink, and also to roll down in the mud for the buffalo, or even flick water onto the back for the elephants, especially on a warm day. In the winter's time, often in the middle of the day, like elephants and buffalo and rhino could be a good option. But as I said, for the predators, it'd be mainly this time of the day, as soon as the sun starts to set. but I do enjoy the colors of these Impala. If you look very closely, you'll notice now and then a tail flick. You'll also see when they do flick their tail, there's a lot of white underneath. And often, especially with a big herd like this, a few individuals will keep their heads down, and now and then you'll see the one just picking up the head to make sure there's no danger around. But for now, let's head across to Kochava with the leopard at that carcass.
Yes, Kochava has a carcass. We've just discovered it. That's just its innards. But she's dragging it away currently, so we just have to move again. Now this is really cool because, what do you think, Owen? From here or you want to go around? Okay. Alright guys, we're going to try and figure out what's the best possible way to do this. And wait for her cub to come out. I'll send you over to James, who has some elephants.
We've had an absolutely fascinating interaction here. One big bull was, well, biggish bull was bullying a little one, and then another little one came in and bashed the bigger one, and now it all seems to have calmed down. There was a huge big fight going on. Let's just see what happens here. We won't spend long here because we do want to get the hyena in, but it was very interesting to watch. So this is the, who was it? This is the bully boy, yeah, coming out here. Yes. And then another one caught in the beautiful setting sun. And then a little one up front playing in the water. We weren't going to stop here, but really it was unavoidable. Right, let's see if we have another interesting interaction here. Yes, Jess, they do use their tusks for fighting, but very seldom lethally so. So often they'll have a little fight with each other, they'll play around, they'll shove each other with their tusks. Sometimes they'll even break the skin, but very seldom does it result in a kind of fatal stab wound. Although we have seen that once here, an elephant died having been stabbed in the side by a mortal enemy. Sweet. I mean, this is a pretty disgusting puddle. I've seen all manner of things in there. And one of them just blowing some bubbles. Like my nephew in his chocolate milkshake. Does anybody else feel like a chocolate milkshake now? I do. Friendly interaction here. You may have noticed the little one putting his trunk, there we go, into the big one's mouth. See that? That's just a greeting. That's very normal. Oh, that's very sweet. Isn't that lovely? Oh, it's beautiful. That's so special. That really is very special. They're almost always entertaining, elephants. I think in terms of sightings, for viewers and for guests that come to Africa, they probably rank slightly below the cats. But in general, they are infinitely more entertaining. You know, obviously we've had 2 or 3 rather spectacular leopard sightings in the last few days because they've got youngsters. But elephants are never not doing something. I mean, I don't know what that thing's doing. The bigger one's just tolerating it. This is his mate, he's looking after his younger mate. I don't know what's going on here. I think it's just a youngster playing with a slightly older one. Now, I think what we witnessed initially was this older one racing in and chasing off another older one, which was bullying the little one. So this to me looks like a little elephant that is basically just goading a slightly older one into playing and having a wrestle. Trunk back in the mouth there. Isn't this amazing? The intricate way that their trunks are folding over each other and then trunk over tusk and tusk over trunk. Oh, Yoko, elephants like to go to the club at night, and so once the sun goes down, they all go and get dressed in their latest fashions, which in elephants at the moment is denim dungarees. That's what they wear, and then they go off to the club, where they dance the night away until, 4 in the morning or so, where they stumble out of the club and back to grazing, which is pretty much when we catch up with them. Yoko, they continue eating throughout the night. They must continue eating throughout the night. They eat for 16 to 18 hours a day. What were we talking about a little bit earlier? So we could interpret this as a dominance display. Alternatively, we could interpret it as a display of homosexuality. You know, display of affection between two elephants. We've seen them being very affectionate with each other. I don't know. They've now gone behind a bush. I think in this particular case, it's probably a dominance display, although you did see that tremendous amount of affection, and maybe one just kind of spills over into the other, I'm not sure. Okay, let's race for the, well, race-ish, for the hyena. Then, if we race along this road, we'll probably have a crash. Good, back over to Trishala now and her very special leopard.
She is indeed a very special leopard. She now has a very large male Impala that she is eating. I've been trying to keep really quiet while I've been here so that I can hopefully allow the cub to come out. She's chuffed a few times. And she keeps looking around. Oh, beautiful face. This kill is quite fresh. We couldn't smell it at all. So I wonder if it was actually going down while we were busy searching at Sibui's kill. There she goes again. I'm not going to follow her straight away. I want her cub to come out. Gillian, did you ask how old Kochava's cub is? I think she's about 7 months old. There we go, there we go, there we go. She's coming out. Cub's coming out. Just saw the tail. She's going, there we go, there we go. Oh, it really pays. I'm not going to move. I know it's a bad visual right now, but I'm not going to move. Hello, little one. Now we're talking about the sounds that the leopards can make. That's another one that through the nose, and they use that to call the cubs. They also do a slightly louder version when they meet other leopards. Now she is going to bring the cub to come and feed. You are gorgeous. Gorgeous new generation. I think we're just gonna stay put. Oh. Beautiful teeth. Now, Kochava is generally a very relaxed leopard, but the last time I saw her, when she was with her cub was very, very aware of us and not very comfortable think that her behavior when we first got here, Kochava's that is, was a result actually of the fact that she had this kill beneath these bushes when we approached her, because she was sitting up in the tree when I was tracking her on the ground in the road, and it's not like her to be a nervous cat. I don't think she was that nervous. Seeing somebody walking is definitely not something a leopard likes. That's why I said at the beginning, that's what I don't like about tracking, because the animal might be nearby. They've gone flat there, yeah. But she's going to come and eat. She definitely is. And if I start up and move around, etc., it's just going to make her uncomfortable again. The cub, that is. They have to come and eat. I'll see if I can roll, but I doubt it.
It's just in the grass here. It's just gone through.
Well, yeah, so the last time I saw her, cub was really, really aware of us. So I think that cub needs some warming up. Well, it's only a matter of time until they come out of that bush.
So it's yours.
No, we can see a little flick. See some rosettes. There we go. Oh, there we go. There we go. Little one. Hello, little one. Rachel, you'd like to know at what age leopard cubs will start eating meat? Well, they're weaned around 10 weeks to 3 months. And at that point, they'll also start eating meat. In fact, a little bit before that. Remember, they need to. There's no other option besides mum's milk or meat. Lovely teeth. I'm not really going to say anything. It's such a special sighting. If you have questions, send them through. But I'm going to just let you enjoy this with the setting sun. Hi Patrick, you're new to us. Welcome aboard. We're so happy to have you. You have come in at a very special time when we have had leopardess in the morning with 2 cubs, and now this lady here, Kochava, and her little cub here. You'd like to know if animals are accustomed to seeing our vehicles. They are. They very much are. In fact, we are around constantly. I know it sounds a bit stalkerish that we're always around following them or looking for them, but they are very, very used to our vehicles. That's why I can be in an open vehicle, I have no door, etc., because they're very used to the vehicle. They kind of see it as one form, if you imagine that. So there's no, oh, there's 2 people, my cameraman and myself, sitting in the vehicle, but rather there's one mass, and this mass doesn't do anything to them, it doesn't threaten them, it allows them to do anything they want to do, so they become very used to them. Even cubs like this, and you'll see when James goes to the hyena den, if the older cubs are out, same thing, they're very curious and they're very comfortable with us. It's when they see us outside of the vehicle that they're not very comfortable at all. And that comes from a history, on a geological time scale, a history of persecution on both sides, really. From the time that we've evolved in Africa together, the modern leopard has been this way for about 600,000 years or so. Modern human, about 250,000 years or so. And we have lived alongside each other, each looking for meat, each after each other. And in the case of humans and leopards in modern times, we have definitely been doing more of the persecution, or the persecuting. So standing up and walking, getting a leopard on foot is something very, very, very difficult. The moment they see you standing on two legs, it's almost instinctual that it's a threat. I think we often forget that our development and evolution has been moving alongside each other for hundreds of thousands of years. Well hidden they are. You can see those two little black ears though. Kochava's gone flat behind that bush, but they will definitely come out to eat. Look at the way she's eyeing us. Listening around. Is it safe? Is it not? I think she just needs a bit of mum's encouragement. And there we have none other than the moon herself. It is a special thing. It definitely is. Waxing gibbous today. Hi Holly, I'd like to know if we're going to give the cub a name. Usually cubs are named at about 12 months plus. Before that it's not really viable to name them because basically the mortality rate is very high. It's about 50% before the first year, so they tend not to be named before that. Once they are, we have decided that we're going to name them. It's not just us that decides. For example, at the moment we're on Chitwa. We're not on Djuma, so maybe the guides are Chitwa. We'd like to have a say, etc. Sometimes viewers have a say, so there's a whole combination of ways in which we can name the cub, but it only happens after 12 months. Sorry, did I say 12 years before? I hope I said 12 months. 12 months, so only after a year. Just gorgeous. Lovely blink. Well, of course I'm going to be waiting here until the end of show, but I'm going to send you over to Nikki at andBeyond's Ngala for a bit of an update, and hopefully this cutie and her mum will get back to the carcass when you come back.
So we moved into the area where we last had the tracks of the lions, or the pride of lions, from this morning. So Sean and Rowan were working really hard in the area, and unfortunately they didn't find any other fresher tracks. So what I think is these lions would have probably gone down in quite a dense area and laid down for the heat of the day. Now it is cooling down, so we are going to move into that area and slowly move across and along this road. And what we'll do at some stage is possibly just switch off the vehicle, listen out to hear if we can hear any maybe contact calling from the lions, or we don't know if those males might be with them. And often with the males, especially this time of the evening, is when they start roaring. So these are the things that we're going to look out for. We haven't seen anything yet, but we are in the area. So we're going to slowly approach, do a wide loop. And who knows, maybe we could be lucky with these lions. You just never know your luck in the bush. But I'm pretty excited. It is a beautiful evening. It's not too cold. I actually thought it was going to be a lot colder than it is now. So it's still nice and warm. And hopefully with it now cooling down, there's a chance that these lions might start moving. So the last tracks we had were coming into this area. So we always talk about what is known as a block. So in other words, if you can imagine my hand like this, so a road would be the top here, on the right here, down here, and up here. So that's literally the roads form a block. And in the middle of that area, there's no road. So if a lion goes into the one side and there's no track coming out, we know that it has to be somewhere there. It's probably just laying in a very dense area where we can't spot it, or even possibly track it on foot. So we're going to slowly carry on. And as I said, we are listening out for any possible sounds that we might hear. Even Franklin's flying up or Impala alarm calling. Those are some of the things we could use. It's also a bit of full moon, so we might just be able to use that to help us spot. But we'll make our way and see if there's any signs of them around. Just want to quickly have a look. I thought I saw a track here. Mr. Giraffe, you asked a good question in regards to the malaria tablet. So if you do visit this area, it is a low risk. So you'll have to take malaria tablets. We personally don't take it. And the reason being is just because, of course, we are in the area. So we only try and treat the symptoms once you get it. Because we also have another thing that we get often from ticks called tick bite fever. But it's not as hectic as you would if you compare it against malaria. However, the symptoms are very similar, so once we get it, then we'll possibly go and test for that and then just treat it from there. But I would highly recommend, if you do visit, then to take it. Or probably the best would be just to consult the doctor in regards to it. But normally I know quite a few of the guests that do visit do take it. Just want to quickly have another look, because I saw that track earlier on. There's some hyena tracks here, but it also look like there might have been some lions. Just quickly want to have a look here. Yeah, it does look like there might have been some tracks of the lions. What I want to do is just carry on with this road and see if there's any other tracks or signs. But for now, it does seem like there might have been one track crossing over this road, but I've only seen one. And I know this pride, there could be probably close to 14 members in the pride at the moment. So we'll slowly carry on again and have another look. So while we're going to continue our search for these lions, wish us the best of luck. But let's send you across to James with Ribbon, the hyena.
Behold, the fattest hyena in all the land. There she lies, in all her corpulent glory, stomach so distended that I wager she could not stand even if she wanted to, which she doesn't. Unbelievable. Now, there was that great big noise that was heard on the dam cam last night. And I spoke to David, who heard it firsthand, and I said, well, what about hippos? He said, no, I've heard hippos fight before. Didn't think that was that. There was a lot of hyena cackling. And so maybe these hyenas ate a baby buffalo last night. There was certainly an impala here this morning with 8 of the clan. And maybe they devoured a baby buffalo yesterday evening. Because I don't think one impala ram would have made 8 hyenas look like, well, an extremely rotund barrel. And I don't recall seeing her here this morning either. Anyway, she's also got a lot of muck and mud on her front foot there. Blood and viscera. So we'll sit here for 5 or 10 more minutes, and then we're going to head back up towards the clearings outside camp, because we had more leopard tracks there earlier as we came down towards this area. 15, you said she looks like she swallowed a beach ball. She sure does. That's exactly what she looks like. I don't think she did swallow a beach ball. I'm really not sure where she'd get one. I also think she'd probably pop it before it got down there. Know what I mean? I mean, the practicalities of a hyena swallowing a beach ball are difficult to fathom. All right, now we have great news, everybody. We're going to go across to Karongwe, where Taylor is going to do a segment.
Okay, linking. I know, James, it's been quite a tough afternoon here. We've been searching for the female cheetah all day, but instead we found something, I don't know if they can quite compete with the looks of a cheetah, but some helmeted guinea fowl. And they're youngsters. Look, there's little guinea fowls there too, which are not quite as impressive as the adults, as they haven't obtained their adult plumage or their bright blue heads just yet. But they're very busy, hard at work, trying to gather up as many seeds as they can off of all the grasses, because, in a couple of weeks' time, there's going to be not much left, and the seeds are not going to be as nutritious. Although I think there are quite a few grasshoppers around at the moment, so I'm sure they won't pass up a delicious grasshopper snack. But we thought we'd lost them. They came out onto the road, and then I switched off, and then unfortunately they disappeared, and then they came back out again. We just heard them rustling around, so it's quite nice. And they are varying ages too, these youngsters. We haven't quite worked out how to fly just yet, practicing. You'll get there. No need to rush. I know that everybody that's young wants to be an adult and learn how to fly, but sometimes it's quite nice to just stay young. Look how beautiful they are, though. They're quite funny to watch, very much like chickens, for those of you that have ever had chickens at home or have just spent a fair amount of time with them. They're almost identical, except prettier. Maybe. Oh, there we go. What did you get? What did you steal? There's a grasshopper I was talking about. Oh, that's unfortunate. Sorry, grasshopper. Ate that one whole. Almost too big to swallow. Now, ornithology dude, you've asked a question with regards to conservation. So at Karongwa Game Reserve, there is a research team that is gathering valuable information about various species of animals, from lions to soon wild dogs when they get released, cheetah, and a variety of other animals. So we're always collecting data and learning more and more about them. Also in this private reserve, we're preserving species and helping to contribute to, I suppose, genetic diversity. So what's quite nice is with these private game reserves, we can swap animals and change up the genetics that way to make sure that we don't, I don't know, I suppose, have the same genetics in the same area for too long, which is very, very important. The other thing that, of course, all safari lodges tend to do is they help with community projects in the local villages. And then something that you maybe wouldn't think that is relating to conservation is also just giving people jobs and educating them about these beautiful wilderness areas. Because unfortunately, most people that live out on the outskirts of these wilderness areas, and you can see, you cannot even see a light in the distance below the Drakensberg mountains, have never even been on a safari before or even know what a lion looks like or a giraffe or anything like that. So, you know, we're contributing in a variety of ways. Obviously, some places specialize in research, but I think that Karongwa Game Reserve is quite a well-rounded company or a reserve that contributes in many different ways. And it gives a home for these guinea fowl to live in. Whether it's a safe home, I'm not so sure. I think there's always something out there looking to eat a guinea fowl. But I do want to share something with you. It's quite spectacular. Can you give me 2 seconds? I just need to open and find the picture. So one of the other really important things that we are doing here in conservation is that we are helping general eyes and ears around. Basically, sorry, I'm just going to pause for a second. So just to quickly link back to what I was going to say, there is essentially guests and people and guides going out on safari are helping. I've just pulled my headphones out, so I'm not going to be able to hear what anyone's saying because I want to show you a picture. And extra pairs of eyes and ears, and poachers are at any opportunity wanting to, I suppose, catch animals. Let me show you there. And, well, whether it's for bushmeat or they want their horns and things like that. So there are some people in camp that have gone out on an anti-poaching patrol and checked the fence lines where they found this leopard that I think was disturbed by a herd of elephants. And then what you're about to see next could be quite disturbing. So if they're young children, it's not that disturbing, but maybe some people are sensitive to kills. But look at that. They got to see on a patrol, while making sure that no one is trying to sneak in through the fence lines, that a leopard killed an Impala ram. And I know that you were with Trishala and Kochava, and she had a big Impala ram kill. I mean, she's not a small female leopard. I love that particular leopard. She's one of my favorites. Oh, sorry. But yeah, so they got to see that, which was pretty exciting. So even when you are out doing something serious like that, you'd be surprised as to what you'd be able to see. Sadly, we couldn't get up there as much as I wanted to go and show you. It's a long, basically near where the fence line and the river meets. We don't have any signal there, which is very sad. But I thought I'd just share the picture with you anyways, because I know so many of you are fascinated, and just goes to show how many amazing things are here to see at Karongwa Game Reserve. In total, leopards, there's quite a few. I don't know. I've seen maybe a few of them, but I only know one really well, which is that big male we tried to get for you. And he might even pop out in this area because we heard him this morning sawing, which was pretty spectacular. Apologies, it seems though we're having some technical difficulties. So we'll just have a quick gander at the sheer cliffs of the Drakensberg Mountains. Look at those beautiful colors. It is. This is, I think, my favorite area for sunsets, just because you get this dramatic view as well. I tried to show you this particular view the other morning. I think you may have just got me sitting quietly. I think we might have had some audio issues. But luckily, I don't think anyone will tire of this gorgeous sunset. So we may have not won in the animal front today, but I think it's safe to say that at Karongwe Game Reserve, every night you'll win with a sunset. And don't they put these kinds of things on postcards? I'm pretty sure they do. Imagine going up there. Alex has actually spent a lot of time clambering around on the Drakensberg mountain, but more in an area just outside Hoedspruit called Mariepskop. Can we see Mariepskop from here? If I go forward?
Yeah.
Should we go forward a little bit? Because I know, I don't know if, I can't remember at Djuma. Sorry, I can roll. Look at this, this is amazing. Something is working in my favor today. Come with us. Hopefully we... Okay, so Alex is going to point it out for us. It's not often that we get to see Mariepskop. I can't remember if we could see it very nicely from Djuma, but we're seeing it from a different angle now, which is awesome. No, a little bit too far away. There's a bit of a haze that's come over the Blue Mountains. There we go. There it is there. So that is the highest point of this section of the Drakensberg. Remember we were talking about it's not the highest section of the Drakensberg. That's found in Lesotho. But if you are a keen birder and you enjoy hiking, that is the place to go. So not only can you go on a safari like this, you can incorporate a multitude of different activities. You can go canyoning, which is something quite incredible that you can go and do in a town nearby, where you climb through waterfalls and go also sliding down very slippery slopes. It's definitely for the adventurous kind. There's canoeing, fishing, fly fishing, you name it. There's so many things to do in the surrounding area, which makes the Lowveld so special. But even though we didn't have any luck with the leopards today, we'll get them next time. Trishala is the one that is winning the safari.
Well, we've managed to roll back and then take the long way around. Her cub moved quite far away and towards Mum, so we managed to get round, and now we're back with Mum. I wonder if that will actually give the cub an opportunity to go down and eat. To relax a little bit. Yes, after a well-deserved kill. Oh, there she comes. There cubby comes. I love when they feel relaxed with you. I think it's such a compliment. Just gorgeous. Infrared now. Oh, excuse me, you're curious about us. Just come a little closer to it. What an awesome experience you get to have through us, and I can't be happier to be able to give it to you. And if you enjoy our safaris, you enjoy seeing Kochava and her cubs, Subuya and her cubs, please do go to our support page and try to help us out. It's really nice that we can do this, that we can be live, that we can be interactive, and there should be some details coming up on your screen. You get to see it from start to finish, from seeing some tracks on the road, seeing the leopard pop out of the tree, and come to her carcass to see her little cub emerge. She's right here. Pull out a little bit. There we go. And this is really interesting. I'm actually very glad that I moved, because we were closer to the carcass, and obviously the little one was still a bit apprehensive about us. I mean, we went on top of the carcass, but we were, say, 10, 12 meters from it. So now that I've moved, she feels comfortable to go and eat. So I'm very glad that we made that decision. Oh, look, there's some hawk moths walking around. Oh, flying around. Robert, you're 12 years old from Joburg, and I only got part of that question. Sorry, I'm on Chitwa, and comms can be a little bit difficult in this area because it's a little far from Joburg, but Natalie's going to help me out. Robert, that is an excellent, excellent question. You'd like to know if leopards' eyes adjust in the night. They have some amazing adjustments they can do. So the pupil of the eye, that's the big circle in the middle of your eye that gets wider and narrower sometimes. That big circle lets in light. And leopards can make those very, very wide. They can open it up to allow much light in. They can open it up much more than we can. I think it's about 135 times the fold of the smallest the pupil can open. So that is a lot of light to let in, and they need light so that they can see better at night. The reason why we can't see as well as light at night is because there isn't enough light. So if you let in more light, it means you can see better. Then on top of that, can you see that her eyes shine? Can you see that? That's the light that goes into her eyes, reflecting back out of her eyes. That gives the retina, that's the part at the back of the eyes that receives the information of the light. That gives the retina and the tapetum lucidum, which is an extra layer that can reflect the light back into the eye. It gives the animal a second chance to absorb light. So any light that gets left behind can get absorbed the second time round. That gives her excellent vision. We have two types of cells in our eyes, rods and cones. That goes for all mammals. And rods are the things that receive light. So the rods are working very hard, and she's switched over to using her rods now that the light is low. Beautiful. Okay, only a few minutes left of show, so I'm going to send you over to James Henry for a bit of an update, and then you can come back to me.
We are having a listening segment. We're on the clearings outside camp, wondering if we will hear the leopard whose tracks we've seen going. As I said that, two impalas did their best to imitate a leopard. You? cricket has started up. Crowned lapwings. Hyena. Contact calling. Delightful sound of a Toyota Land Cruiser on its way here. Just spectacular stuff. Right, let's go back to Trish for the end of the show. Thank you very much for joining us on our wonderful Sunday afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow at 0600. Bye-bye.
It's the last few minutes of show. But I'm so glad that we managed to find these two beauties. I'm gonna stick here. It'd be nice if we could go through the carcass, but I think I'll just scare a little one. So let's let her eat. It's very important to feed people and animals. Make sure that they're well fed, or rather that their parents feed them in this case. So let's not take her away from her meal. Kochava's gone flat a little bit. The stars are starting to come out. And it is stunning. By the way, I think Owen doesn't get credit enough, but he has made us a potjie for tonight. And he did all his yes, credit where it's due. And all his prep before drive. So we're looking forward to a really nice South African evening. She's lying flat there somewhere, I tell you, in the middle. I can sort of see her spots. Next, she's to the left, Owen, on your left corner. There we go, further down. You can see her breathing. There we go. Oh, she must be so happy. Well-fed cub. She's well fed herself. Well, this is awesome. She's got a kill. And that means that in the morning, it's likely that she will still be around. Very nice. I hope she'll hoist it before the hyenas come along. I'm sure she will once it's a little bit lighter. Well, that was great. I'm very happy that we got rewarded with this beautiful sighting. And the cub coming out was just spectacular. So thank you guys for your questions, your comments. You know we love it. We'll see you in the morning for Sunrise Safari. Goodbye for now.